question would be, how much of it is a problem from air pollution problem from them? How much would I say this? Like, what is
What's their contribution to air pollution by covering the field?
Right, right.
It's pretty minuscule.
Right.
Actually, ag burning is less than 1% of our air problems.
And that's
Is that a myth, or is that a fact?
According to CARB statistics, well, I looked at this a couple of years ago. I doubt they've changed, but modeling that CARB, California Air Resources Board, does is that our main problem is fugitive dust.
For PM10, but if you look at ROGs and NOx, it's a little bit more percentage-wise for ag and prescribed burning, but it still makes the top 10 though, even though it is that 1 to 2%.
It's pretty high.
Yeah, but for PM10,
It
definitely.
looks terrible.
Yeah.
It looks scary.
and that was my other thing is that, yeah, I think on the surface it looks like it's something that does very little to the overall problem. But ideally, if you package it as this is something that can help a lot of people and it's something simple, it's also something that, I mean, with burn a bail, go to jail, that policy, you couple it with that. But I think in general, it generates a lot of goodwill. It generates a lot of positive information because if you have it attached to Clean Air Initiative, American Lung Association, you're adding to the general awareness to people.
You know, if it does 1%, 2%, or 0%, but I know when they're burning, it turns a nice, beautiful day into a gloomy day.
Aesthetically, it's grim.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I mean, if I can see it, it must be there.
Well, but
and everything that
we
goes
can't
up
see a lot of
comes down.
PM10 and that's hurting us more.
Right.
So you have to figure out what we want.
Yeah, right. So what are the other, this is, I think, a worthwhile trend for the discussion to go, because if we're going to spend our time brainstorming on policy and activities and so forth, we should address the most severe sources of pollution. So fugitive dust, where does that come from? I mean, I have some ideas, but where are all the sources?
A lot of it is, desert wind incidents, but the couple of meetings I've been to on 12.310 and stuff at the Valley is what APCD is trying to do, correct me if I'm wrong, is find out what dust problems can be minimized around cities. So heavily used ag roads around towns, IID roads, for instance. And so all these things need to be monitored. BLM's activities around cities, anywhere there are vehicles using their roads. And so this is the whole part of the SIP that's being developed, right, is to minimize that. And I've sat in on a couple of meetings where IID was there, and people from Navy base and different groups. So the idea is to minimize dust creation around cities where people are going to be breathing the dust. And either minimizing unpaved road use, monitoring unpaved road use, which would be a big problem for IID and for farmers and others, and perhaps paving some areas, and even locking some, like canal roads. That's under discussion. All these things are under discussion. I don't know what role we could play in this, except like maybe cities paving their unpaved alleys. Yeah, it's a heat though. I'm ambivalent. Like there's an alley that runs right back to my house, and as far as I know, the city of El Centro has on the books a rule that neighbors can get together and close the alley and extend the backs of their yards. So everybody gains, 10 feet or something. Whatever.
Are you going to brawl it?
I don't know. No, this is El Centro, the city of El Centro. I read this a long time ago, and I don't even know if it's still on the books. It probably is, because nobody's acted on it. But I'm ambivalent about that, because if we say, well, we want the alleys closed, and either we move our fences or fence lines, or else the city paves it. If the city paves it, then it just adds heat and such. Maybe it would be used more. I don't know.
And with the heat, you have the ozone element.
But dust alley, unpaved alleys is a big issue in all of our towns. And so that's, I don't know, that's something that...
Well, isn't there, there's new permeable surfaces that are, they're not tar, tar and stuff that gives off products, and it allows for absorption of water as well. So Yeah, I mean, that stuff is like, I think some of it's from recycled material.
I understand that's
Like,
pretty
you know,
expensive.
like plastic bottles and cans can be recycled. I've seen boardwalks,
Yeah.
like, across dunes, for example, that are made of this permeable material, hard enough to hold up to cars, better than, you know, pouring more petroleum products on the ground.
Maybe that's what we need to ask the
So
city to do.
here's a policy right there. We, no more asphalt when we pave dirt roads. We go entirely to recycling. I mean, you know, think big. We're only going to go to permeable, hard surfaces no more. I mean, why not?
I'm asking the city of El Centro to do this, by the way, in Buckland Park. They're gonna pave the path in Buckland Park. And, it's unclear what they're gonna pave it with, but it may be some sort of a concrete thing to make it Americans with Disabilities Act compliant, which makes sense, and also to keep down dust. And I think it may get money from APCD to do this. I think so. So I'm asking them to don't pave it with asphalt. And make it a ADA compliant, that's fine, but try to find one of these substitute coverings. Dust is not really the problem in the park. Uneven surface is more of a problem for people in wheelchairs who want to use it. But I use the park all the time, and over many, many years, just a couple of times I've seen dust blowing around. But to get them to do that is really hard. Because you have to do the research, and some of these substitute coverings are really expensive.
Well, you know, if some of them are made of recycled materials, you know, maybe there's a lot of potential in that when you think of the industry that could be created locally, recycling materials and making this. One of the things called Trexel. Have you heard of Trexel? Yeah. That's an interesting field for research.
Unfortunately, they need it for multiple use, including it needs to be a strong enough surface to support heavy machinery, because the plows and bulldozers and stuff that move around the park occasionally needs to use this surface to get around. So it's a challenging issue. I mean, when you get down to actual implementation, these are challenging issues. So I talked to a former student of mine who's a planner up in Indio, and he said perhaps a split trail, so that you'd have to widen the existing walkway in the park, but one surface would be for the vehicular traffic, and then the other might be one of these alternative surfaces. I don't know.
Speaking about alternative surfaces, I was just thinking about, I've heard in some places you take old tires and you grind them up into granules. You can lay that across a path, like a dirt path, and it's heavier than the dirt, and it's not going to blow away. So that's one way to cover up dust and loose soil surface. And it creates a soft texture as well, so it's kind of something you can run on your joggers.
Well, I mean, if they're going to put concrete on the park, I mean, I like to go running and walking, and if it's concrete, it's going to be best for my heels.
Exactly.
So where are we going to put it in the ground?
Right.
So,
And that's what I said in one of my emails, is that what people will do is create an alternative path on the road. They'll move off that surface. They won't run on that surface.
exactly.
The thing I'd like to just get off my mind, because it's kind of scary off in different directions, but there's the state implementation plan that's going to be looking into addressing different sources from PMs to ozone, and that's going to provide opportunities to maybe put an input in regards to reducing some of these sources that we've been talking about. So developing a whole new initiative to address the policy, it's like rebuilding something from the ground up, when this is already happening now, where we can make a greater impact. So I'm just throwing that out. Is that something that would like to consider? Take on this?
Louis, are you talking about the Air Resources Board? I just heard something this morning. The Air Resources Board of California is working on setting up policies for implementation of AB 32, the state bill to address our carbon footprint in California. Is that what you're talking about? The Air
No,
Resources
I'm
Board?
talking about the Clean Air Act's policies